Hi, welcome to first step. As part of this video, I am going to show you how to create Azure Data Factory using Azure CLI. In my previous video, I have explained how to create Azure Data Factory using portal.azure.com and what are all the naming standards that we need to follow in order to create a resource and what are all the prerequisites that we need to have in order to create any resource in Azure Cloud Services and so many things. If you haven't seen the previous video, you can find the video link in description. Please go through that video before continuing further. And as we know, even through any medium, through portal.azure.com or Azure CLI or API or SDK, there are certain prerequisites that is mandatory in order to create any resource in Azure Cloud Service. So here, as part of CLI, there are three mandatory prerequisites we have in order to create a data factory using CLI. The very first one is a valid subscription. As we all know, every resource must be created under a subscription, so it is must, and we're supposed to have a valid and active subscription. And the second thing is resource group. So all the resources that we need to create in Azure Cloud Services must be tied up with a resource group. So the mapping would be like every resource must map with one resource group at least. Okay, so that is the reason why these two are mandatory prerequisites for any resource to be created in Azure Cloud Service. Okay, other than that, according to your procedure, there are other prerequisites as well. Let's take for an example, if you are creating a resource like Azure Data Factory using portal.azure.com, then only subscription and resource group are well enough. But if we are going to do the same practice using Azure CLI or Python SDK, you may need a third prerequisite, that is nothing but a service principal. Okay, a service principal will help you out to authenticate with the Active Directory or the tenant so that you will be able to create the required resources in the resource group. But one catchy here that we need to keep in mind is that the service principal must have a relevant accesses to the resource group and subscription that we are going to use. If the service principal does not have the required and relevant access to the resource group or the subscription, then the creation activity will fail with authentication, with the authorization error. Okay, so we may not have the required privileges to create the resources inside the resource group. So I hope you are clear here, but don't worry, the complete step-by-step activity has been captured in GitHub repository, so that you can review that later whenever you need your time, and I will be giving you that link in the description below. Okay, so as we know, we have all the prerequisites. Okay, I assume that you have the resource group, you have the subscription, you have the service principal. Okay, so the very first step that we need to do is install the Azure CLI. If you run this command in your PowerShell, before running this command in your PowerShell, you must run the PowerShell as administrator. You need to have admin privileges in order to run this command. So this will basically install Azure CLI inside your PowerShell. Okay, for the practice purpose or the preparation activity, as part of preparation activity, I have already installed this step. So reinstalling this won't give a meaningful insight. So I'm going to skip this activity. Okay, so once your prerequisite is completed, the next step is to install Azure CLI in your Windows machine. Okay, the third step, now you have prerequisites, all checks passed, you have installed Azure CLI. The next step is authentication. Okay, while authentication, you need to provide the service principal and client secret or app secret. Generally, these terminologies seems to be different, but both points to the same purpose only, or both acts to the same purpose. Okay, so there are two ways that you can use service principal authentication, either providing the client secret or providing the certificate. So two ways you can use. Okay, in real-time use cases like deploying through a CI/CD pipeline, we prefer to tend to go with the certificates rather than secrets. Okay, but here in the example, I'm going to show you how to use the service principal ID, or known as app ID, or known as client ID, using its secret. Okay, there are three mandatory parameters we need to pass whenever we are logging into the Azure portal. Okay, using Azure CLI. One is service principal, the ID. The second one is password or secret. The third one is tenant. Okay, already I have logged into my PowerShell using this information. So in order to validate which service principal or which user basically logged into the PowerShell, you can run the command az account show. Okay, so az account show will basically show what's the user which logged into the portal, sorry, the CLI now. So az account show will show, see, the name is nothing but my service principal ID. Okay, so let me clear this. So now we have successfully passed 3 steps. We got all the prerequisites completed, we have installed Azure CLI, and we have logged in. Okay, before proceeding further, let me show you here in the given resource group rg first dev test 001. I do not have any resources other than one data factory, one key vault, and one storage account, which again follows the same naming convention provided or suggested by Microsoft. Okay, now we are going to create the Azure Data Factory resource in multiple ways in the same resource group and same subscription. But before creating this, let us take a step back and understand what this command line interface to create this Azure Data Factory will give us as an option, what and all the configurations we can play with the command. So this is the command, whatever that you see in the screen from line number 20 to line number 27 is the command which will be wisely used to create an Azure Data Factory with multiple configurations. Whatever the command that is given in this square bracket or the optional parameters. Okay, so here az data factory create will basically create a data factory which requires 2 mandatory configurations. One is the data factory name and one is the resource group. So these 2 are mandatory configurations. Other than that, we can pass GitHub configuration. When it is GitHub, it can be an open GitHub or GitHub Enterprise. VSTS means nothing but your DevOps Git repository. Okay, and global parameters will pass a parameter such as verbose, debug, and other the global parameters applicable for all the CLI operation. Okay, and if match is something that we need to replace any specific tags, we can give this. And location will allow you to create this data factory in the given region. Okay, there is one thing that we need to remember. If you have not given this location, ADF will be created in the default region where the resource group is created. Okay, if you see command 3, I have not given any location parameter. I have given only resource group and factory name. So this data factory will be created in East US2 region, because if you see the resource group we have created is only on East US2 location. Okay, so that's one beauty of the automation that Azure has achieved. Okay, and tags, as far we know that it can allow you to perform logical grouping operation based on your use cases. Okay, so these are the parameters that we are going to use or play around with the CLI interface in order to create a new data factory in your subscription and resource group. Okay, let us go to step 3. Here I'm going to create a data factory with default configurations. When I say default configurations, all the mandatory parameters. When I say all the mandatory parameters, resource group and factory name. Okay, and you can see I have written a command called az data factory create resource group, the resource group name rg first step dev test 001, and factory name I have given as ADF first step dev test is ES2 002. These naming conventions are the recommended naming conventions by Microsoft. In my previous video, I have clearly explained how we can do that. Even this naming convention document as well I have given in the below description. Please go through that. Okay, now let us copy this command and run it in the PowerShell. Okay, so you can see here, the moment I run this command in PowerShell, just wait for a couple of minutes. It may take 10 to 20 seconds in order to completely execute this command. Once it is executed, you will get a JSON response, and that JSON response will give you the in detail information about the data factory created and its associated properties. When I say data factory created, you can see the data factory is created in this location, and the associated properties such as the location where it is created, what is the data factory name, what's the provision state, whether it is succeeded or failed. So this flag will tell us whether the data factory is successfully created or not. Okay, and then what is the resource group it is created, tags, type, version, everything. One specific property that you need to note here, team, repo configuration is set to null here. Okay, in future, like in some time, the next command when we run, this will be populated with the required values, but clearly you can see here, the moment I ran create data factory with default configuration, the repo configuration is set to null. Okay, now let us go back to the portal.azure.com and refresh the page. You can see data factory 2 is created now. That's great. This is how we are going to create a new data factory resource using Azure CLI. Let me click this data factory and open it, because we already get a confirmation from this CLI that the creation is succeeded, okay, but let us visually verify it, okay. I should not face any error when I'm trying to open this data factory resource. It's supposed to it's supposed to launch successfully, and we can navigate to all the sections in the data factory resource creator, okay. You can see the name is ADF first step dev test is ES202. And one more thing, as I have explained, you can see this data factory is created in the same region ES2 because we have not provided any region here, right? So that's the beauty we have. If you have not provided any region when creating data factory, by default it will take the region where the resource group is created, okay. So if you see, it is going to ES2 002. Let me show you how we can open this. This is 002. Let me click continue. So it will open the ES2 data factory, okay. So we do have the data factory created as we required, okay. Now let me take a step back and let me take you to the third command, okay. Sorry, the next command. So the first command that we ran will create data factory by providing only resource group and factory name without giving any other parameters. The next command will help you to create a data factory in the given resource group with the given factory name, but we are passing additional optional parameter called Factorygator Configuration. If you might have seen my first video, I have already clearly explained what is this GitHub configuration and what and all the parameters it will accept. The same parameters we are going to pass here. Account name is nothing but your GitHub account name, GitHub account or GitHub enterprise account name. Collaboration branch is nothing but your branch in the repository. Last commit ID is not a mandatory one. Repository name is nothing but the GitHub repository that we need to pass, and root folder is the default folder. If you want to save it in any custom folders, you can give data factory or something, so it will create in the custom folder location. But for our use case, we are going to create this in the root directory. But before proceeding with this step, let us take a step back and verify whether we do have the repository. So if you see here in this, we do have totally 2 repositories available, I believe. I'm sorry, let me check. Yeah, 2 repositories available here. Let me click new. So we need to give the repository name. The repository name is nothing but Azure CLI demo, okay. So Azure CLI demo, I'm copying it here. It's a public repository. I have added readme. You can see there is a master branch, okay. The moment we created the repository is created with a given name. We have, this is pass, check. Account name is same, check. Master branch is there, check, okay. And if you see, it's currently having only one branch, and you can see that there is no other branches available here, okay. So let us run this command, okay. Let me copy this and take me to the Azure CLI, okay. In Azure CLI, before running clear, I'm going to copy paste this, okay. Just be with me for 10 to 15 seconds so that you will be able to see the data factory will be successfully created. But there is one difference. In our previous command, we have only given the data factory name and region name, whereas in this command we are trying to give the GitHub configuration. So one difference I would like to highlight here. If you see here, repo configuration is set to null here, but the repo configuration is set to a valid values here. So this data factory 003 is created with the GitHub configuration, okay. Now let us go back to the portal.azure.com. Let me refresh this page. 003 will be created. Let me click this 003, open data factory. So the moment I click open data factory, it will open the data factory that is newly created, that is nothing but our 003 data factory, okay. So once this is opened, you will see it will ask us the branch name, okay. Currently what we have here is only master branch. If I come here and go to the author tab, see, please select the working branch, okay. So I'm going to choose save. I'm going to choose the master branch now, okay. So the pop-up shows a highlight red color error, which is something to do with my previous action. You will not get that one, but here you can see master branch is created, and you can see here only have master branch. Let us verify whether this GitHub repository, whatever we have, is in sync or integrated with the ADF by creating the new branch, okay. I'm going to create a new branch, ADF collaboration, okay. So ADF collaboration I'm going to create. The moment I create here, it will directly create the required branch in this repository. Let us refresh this page. You can see now there are 2 branches. See, ADF collaboration is created. So our ADF resource is tightly integrated with the GitHub repo, so that this step is passed. The next step, okay, the last option we have. So till now we have seen the prerequisites. how to install CLI, how to log in using service principal, the flavors we have in order to create a data factory, flavor 1, flavor 2, and now flavor 3. As we all know, Microsoft owns two varieties of GitHub. One is GitHub and another one is DevOps GitHub. Okay, so both options you can configure. Unfortunately, currently Data Factory supports only these two. So in order to do this, okay, most of the parameters are same except this one. Here you can see factory GitHub configuration. Here you'll be seeing factory VSTS configuration. Okay, and again account name, collaboration branch, so on, so things, everything is same. Okay, let me take you to my ADO project. Here you can see my ADO project is created, and I can see that I already have a repo here. Okay, which I have only main repo. Okay, and the same parameters I'm using here, ADF test, and I am not changing anything. I'm going to run this command in our PowerShell. Okay, so before running, let me clear it, and I'm going to paste this command, hit enter. Okay, just bear with me for 10 to 15 seconds, 1 second, because each command will take some time to execute. Okay, so once this is successfully executed, as we know, we will get a success message along with a huge JSON that will show us what's the associated properties with the ADF. You can see GitHub configuration is now pointing to the new branches, and the repository name is nothing but our 004. Okay, now let us go back to the portal.azure.com, go to all resources. Let me refresh the page. You can see 004 is created. Let me click 004, click open. So the moment I click open, it will take us to the 004 ADF resource. Okay, so here you can see once this is launched, it will also ask us to configure the branch. Okay, just bear with me for a couple of moments, let it to launch. It is launched. The moment I go to author tab, see it is asking for main branch. Okay, let me choose the main branch here. Okay, so the main branch is chosen, and you can clearly see there is no more branches available here. The moment I create a new branch from main, ADF collab. Okay, let us stop ADF collab here itself in order to differentiate our GitHub and DevOps. ADF collab is created. Here if I come and refresh the page, here you can see ADF collab is created. Now this Azure Data Factory 004 is tightly integrated with our DevOps Git as well. Okay, so you can see all the flavors we highlighted here. Simply creating Azure Data Factory, creating a data factory with GitHub repository, creating a data factory with DevOps repository. Everything is done. Okay, and as I explained earlier, all the step-by-step activities derived in GitHub repo, and you can find that URL link in the description box. Please find it. So once everything is completed, don't forget to log out from the Azure CLI. Okay, once logged out, we are good to use the resource. Okay, if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.